Praise the Lord. We welcome you again tonight. We broadcast you from New World Deliverance Ministries International. We thank you for joining us from wherever you might find yourself, in whichever continent you might be in, whether in South America, North America, Asia, Europe, wherever God has encouraged you to be hearing these messages from God's own word. We welcome you, and this is your humble servant, Apostle Ebenezer. Tonight, we're doing a follow-up from Sunday, when we were wondering, how did David build himself up to become, or into becoming, a godly man, like we later saw in his lifestyle? Or a man after God's own heart, as God called him. How did he build himself? Did he have to do some things? Or just because God said he was a man after his own heart, he just sat down and did nothing? Well, we've had quite a lot to talk about David, and we're still talking about him because there are a lot of instances in his life that he faced very distressing situations. Still, he knew how to reach out to his God, and he stayed solid in faith in his God. So whatever situation he found himself, he either praised the Lord, or he prayed, or did something to glorify God's holy name all the time. So we have a lot to learn from David, and I pray that after hearing such messages, it should encourage you to want to live like him. So right away, let's go to today. We're looking at some practical things that David did, when he was in trouble. Well, we see that, David prioritized his intimate worship with God. He actively sought the guidance of God in every crisis he found himself. And, regarding his moral failures, he immediately, when he recognized them, he just went with broken heart before God to repent or ask for forgiveness. And we have seen that his total strength was his reliance on God. You want to be like David? That would be something God will appreciate, because David made God happy. You can also. So let's see what David did when he faced a certain situation. Instead of retaliating or, despairing and doing whatnots, expressing whatnots, when life kind of collapsed around him and he felt like maybe all is lost. Even when his own men threatened to stone him, he did something. He encouraged himself in the Lord. So it's all he has. Wow, what about you? When life seems to collapse around you, what do? You throw your hands in the air and blame God and blame others, or what do? Wow. So let's learn how David did his thing. Let's go.
1 Samuel chapter 30, verses 1 through 8. Now it happened, when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south, and Ziklag attacked Ziklag and burned it with fire, and had taken captive the women and those who were there, from small to great. They did not kill anyone, but carried them away and went their way. So David and his men came to the city, and there it was, burned with fire, and their wives, their sons, and their daughters had been taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him lifted up their voices and wept until they had no more power to weep. And David's 2 wives, Ahinoam and Jezreelites, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal the Carmelite, had been taken captive. Now David was greatly distressed. The people spoke of stoning him because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and his daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. Then David said to Abiathar, the priest, and Ahimelech's son, please bring the ephod here to me. And Abiathar brought the ephod to David. So David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them, and without fail recover all.
Wow. Read the verses again.
Now David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and his daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God.
Wow. So usually what makes people want to behave like that? You know, now you have had such bad news. Now this bad news, they were trying to attribute it to David because he was their leader, you know. And what did David do? He said they nearly stoned him, but David did what? He encouraged himself in the Lord. How did he do it? How did he encourage himself in the Lord? There's a whole question that when you find yourself in a distressed situation, what do you do? Do you just insult God for making you come into a situation like that? Or what do you do? Now, what did David do? He said he encouraged himself in the Lord. How can you encourage yourself in the Lord? You can do so by praising Him, adoring Him, just praying to Him. You tell Him, Lord, I thank you that you love me. I thank you that you know me. I thank you that what is above me, you alone is the solution. Intervene for me and take all the glory. See? So David was somebody who always knew how to approach God. So he encouraged himself in the Lord. And what did he do? After encouraging himself in the Lord, he called for the priest, Abiathar. He said, bring me the ephod. In those days, David had opportunity, or someone had trained him how to even use the ephod. And this ephod, he could ask God something and God will answer. So he said, and David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue this troop? Shall I overtake them? Divine counsel is very important. Divine counsel. If you have this kind of relationship with God, it is you that is going to help. But we ought to learn how to develop this relationship with God, because David exercised a lot of faith in God in his time. How about me and you? Because if God wants to use you for something or want to answer for something, supposing you can't hear from Him, He can give you something positive. You see, you can touch your heart with peace about something, or the thing that you are asking Him about. You can touch your heart with, you feel peaceful to pursue that thing. But when it is not His will, it can make you feel otherwise, you know. But demons are very deceptive also. They take advantage of human beings, especially those who cannot hear from God. He takes advantage of them and he is able to make himself like God. But their peace is short-lived, because they don't know peace and they don't have peace. So they will make you feel confused about stuff. You have to know the difference. The one from God will give you some peace, and the one from demons will give you confusion and double-mindedness. So learn to know the differences. I will see that David, because he encouraged himself in the Lord, and his men were all, despaired. Say, what? They took my wife, they took my kids, they took my everything. I see the wisdom of God, because God used this situation to glorify his holy name. So what he did was to change the Philistines, he changed their hearts, not to kill any of them. Isn't that amazing? Wow. So in any kind of situation, God always has a way that he plays his role in it. Because he knew that he would let David save his children and his wives. So he kept them from being killed. Isn't that amazing? So God knows our tomorrow, he knows our yesterday, he knows our now. Can you put your faith in him so that he can lead you and direct you and make what is impossible possible for you in the end? Wow. So, we see what David did. Let's keep going to see what happened later.
Samuel 39 to 15. So David went, he and the 600 men that were with him, and came to the brook Besor, where those that were left behind stayed. But David pursued, he and 400 men, for 200 abode behind, which were so faint that they could not go over the brook Besor. And they found an Egyptian in the field and brought him to David, and gave him bread, and he did eat, and they made him drink water. And they gave him a piece of a cake of figs, and 2 clusters of raisins, and when he had eaten, his spirit came again to him. For he had eaten no bread, nor drunk any water 3 days and 3 nights. And David said unto him, To whom belongest thou, and whence art thou? And he said, I am a young man of Egypt, servant to an Amalekite, and my master left me because 3 days agone I fell sick. We made an invasion upon the south of the Kerethites, and upon the coast which belongs to Judah, and upon the south of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire. And David said to him, Canst thou bring me down to this company? And he said, Swear unto me by God, that thou wilt not kill me, nor deliver me into the hands of my master, and I'll bring thee down to this company.
Wow. You see one of the most important characteristics here. Now this guy that they found, they could easily have killed him. Now rather, they extracted information. It's like when you are with God and he wants to give you some victory, sometimes he just line things up in such a way that he uses it to glorify his holy name. They didn't know how they could find these people. They have already looted the Ziklag, and they're gone. So nobody knew how they could find these people. But God made a way. They found one of these guys, and this guy says he's an Egyptian. And he fell sick, and they left him to die. Wow. What wickedness is this? He's one of their soldiers. And because he fell sick, they left him to die. But God saved him, kept him alive, and he got fed by David and his men. He, got revived, and they could extract some very important information. He told them what had happened and where the people would be. And so what happened? David and his company did something. Let's keep going, and we shall see.
Samuel 30:16 through 20. And when he had brought him down, there they were spread out over all the land, eating and drinking and dancing, because of the great spoil which they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from the land of Judah. Then David attacked from twilight until the evening of the next day. Not a man of them escaped, except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. So David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away, and David rescued his 2 wives. And nothing of theirs was lacking, either small or great, sons or daughters, spoil or anything which they had taken from them. David recovered all. Then David took all the flocks, the herds they had driven before those other livestock, and said, "This is David's spoil."
Wow. This is interesting. This is very amazing. What God promised in verse 8, we see it happening right here. Wow. See, so when we believers, when we lose ground in anything, let's just remember that our spiritual life, by God's grace, is possible for us to regain it. See? Now we see how David, because of his relationship with God, was able to recover everything that he had lost. But he had to fight from twilight to twilight. It's like 24 hours. How did they even get the strength to keep fighting like that? Isn't that interesting? That's amazing. Wow. So God gave them extra strength to keep fighting. And there were only 400 of them. There were originally 600, 200 fell sick. So 400 had to meet and fight over 1 million soldiers. Imagine. Who can do that? It's only supernatural help. But sometimes we might be in a situation that is so distressing. But don't forget that as you lift it to God, He knows how to save you. He knows how to make things happen. That's what I want all of us to understand, that God always knows what He's doing. Sometimes it might look ugly, it might look impossible, it might look, what else? It can look anything that we can describe. But if God is in the works about something, He will surely bring great victory in the end. So this is for our encouragement. Always let's learn how we can encourage ourselves in the Lord, because He's able to recover what our enemies taken from us from infancy to now. But sometimes demons think whatever they have stolen is forever. But God is able to recover for us and give us more than what we lost. If you're a child of God, just stay in Him. Let your faith be always on fire. so that whatever distress you might find yourself, you will look up to him for your solution and not looking elsewhere. Or throwing tantrums and doing whatnots, it won't bring anything to you. But if you just keep resilient in the Lord, praising him, adoring him, letting God know that you care about him, above everything else, what you lost in. And God knows how to bring things to success at the end. So the end is what matters to God, the end. Wow. Yeah, let's keep going.
1 Samuel 30, 21 through 24. Now David came to the 200 men who had been so weary that they could not follow David, whom they also had made to stay at the brook Ebenezer. So they went out to meet David and to meet the people who were with him. And when David came near the people, he greeted them. Then all the wicked and worthless men of those who went with David answered and said, because they did not go with us, we will not give them any of the spoil that we have recovered, except for every man's wife and children, that they may lead them away and depart. But David said, my brethren, you shall not do so with what the Lord has given us, who has preserved us and delivered into our hand the troop that came against us. For who will heed you in this manner? But as his part is who goes down to battle, so shall his part be with who stays by the supplies. They shall share alike.
Wow. So this is true with us believers now also. Some of us, because maybe something happened and we were not up to task. So some might have a different feeling. Now, this is wartime, but these 200 were sick. They couldn't. So the 400 that went, now they assume that what happened, the victory that they had, was their fighting and everything else. They became selfish. So when they came and David showed leadership here, telling them that, look, these are brethren, it's because of a genuine situation. That's why they couldn't be with us. Therefore, whatever plunder we have gathered, we are going to remember them and share with them equally. Some of the people were very displeased about this, because it's like when Jesus gave that parable of people who are being hired 6 in the morning and those who are being hired by 5 in the evening. And the closing time was 6 p.m., from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So people were hired at 5 p.m. and they received the same pay. In our normal mindset, how would this feel? You feel like it's a cheating thing, right? Yeah, but God is fair. Whether you start early or you start late, he deserves the right to give you what you deserve. So whether you work for 1 hour or 100 hours, in the sight of God, giving you the same pay is what he thinks is fair. But in our mindset, it's not like that. That's why God says his thoughts are not like ours, and his ways are not like ours. So this is a typical example of Jesus telling us so, and we see how David, he didn't forget this thing, because he knows and understands that their victory came from God, and it didn't come from their own works or their own abilities. So always let's remember that God has the final say in everything concerning our lives. So let's learn to give him all the praise and adoration. All right, let's keep going.
1 Samuel 30, 25 through 31. So it was from that day forward he made it a statute and an ordinance for Israel to this day. Now when David came to Ziklag, he sent some of the spoil to the elders of Judah, to his friends, saying, "Here's a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of the Lord." To those who were in Bethel, to those who were in Ramoth of the south, those who were in Jatir, those who were in Aurora, those who were in Sithmoth, those who were in Eshtemoa, those who were in Rekai, those who were in the cities of Jerahmeelites, those who were in the cities of the Kenites, those who were in Hormah, those who were in Korashan, those who were in Atak, and those who were in Hebron, and to all the places where David himself and his men were accustomed to rove.
Oh, look at that. Now we see one of a beautiful character of David here. It's like he's very unselfish and very gracious. Wow. He didn't let only his soldiers enjoy, but you remember the elders even in the city. He spread out his blessing because he remembered that it was God who gave him this kind of plunder from the enemies. He shared abroad what he was blessed with. How many of us can do that? Wow, they didn't go to the war. They had nothing to do. Yet David remembered them. So, this is why David is a man after God's own heart. He doesn't have selfishness. He made sure he had quenched it. You see? What about you? Are you gracious enough to share what you have? Even if you don't ask for? So let's learn from David this wonderful character. First, he encouraged himself in the Lord. And second, he went before God with a problem. And because he had built this relationship with God, God answered him. And he went with boldness and showed bravery against the enemy. The enemy had millions of soldiers, and he had only 400. Yet, he has supernatural strength to fight from dawn to dusk. And God gave them victory over their enemies, and they had more than what they could ask for. So, after that, we see David share everything that he had. He gave someone. He shows how gracious he is and how unselfish he is. So let's learn of these characteristics so that it can be part of us and learn to do the same, because it's going to help us. Let's keep going.
Psalms 18:6. In my distress I called upon the Lord and cried out to my God. He heard my voice from his temple, and my cry came before him, even to his ears.
Wow. Again?
In my distress I called upon the Lord, and I cried out to my God. And he heard my voice from his temple, and my cry came before him, even to his ears.
Wow. So David always remembers that in times of extreme danger and distress, he knew what to do. Wow. He knew what to do. He went to his God and he did what? He cried unto him. I believe David's cry is not like how we cry. Our minds are divided, our hearts are divided. So we just want our problems to be solved by God. But we don't really cry out so that God can feel what is our heart crying out for. So it's very important to learn how David did his things. He said, in my distress, I called to the Lord and cried out to my God. Wow. He's proud of his God because he has developed this relationship that is extraordinary with his God. He said, and my God heard my voice from his temple. Wow. And my cry came before him, even unto his ears. In other words, David didn't relax in his cry unto his God anytime he was in distress. He not only just cried, he praised the Lord, he worshipped him, he did everything that will make God have his ear tuned and turned to David. Can you arise yourself from where you are in your extreme distress or situation and learn from David and reach out to God with your whole spirit, soul, mind, and body? Yes. This is why we are learning from David, how he built up himself in the Lord to become the man after God's own heart. So this is where we shall, pause today, and in a few days we will come back again with more that we can learn from David. God richly bless you and have a great.
Thank you for watching with us here at New World Deliverance Ministries International. If this message ministered to you, please like, subscribe, and share it. We welcome you back for more spiritual wisdom intended to make and keep you anew in Christ Jesus. May the Lord richly bless you and keep you. Thank you for watching with us here at New World Deliverance Ministries International.